Good morning and welcome to The Mint. I'm Andy Hodges, and of course it's a Monday, and I love Mondays because I have an exciting week ahead of me because my week is with you every morning at 10 a.m. here live on ZTN. Now, our main stories. If there was any doubt about the most innovative company in Zimbabwe, well, Cassava Smart Tech Zimbabwe, I think, surely takes that. They are now entering the Bureau de Change market and through their app SASAI, the remittance market too. And also, Zimbabwe again raises the prices of petrol and diesel effective today. Don't go away. All this and more on The Mint. We'll be right back. Now then, as usual, we look at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Now, of course, the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange has been trading in the negative last week. And in fact, on Friday was no different. In fact, the all-share index was down 1.11%. The industrial index was down 1.09%. And the top 10 down 1.46%, and mining 1.88%. In fact, on Friday, there was not a single share that traded in the positive. And in fact, if you look at the losers on Friday, you had some of the heavyweights. Old Mutual Limited was down. It led the losers by 0.2 cents. And of course, Rio Zim, Delta, Seedco International were also all down. The question I pose to you is this a good time for you to look at picking up bargains on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange? I think it may be. Please, so have a look at that. If those investors of you who are in stocks and shares, maybe it's a good time. If you find the right counters, it's a good time to buy. In fact, week on week, the all-share index closed just under 3% down. Industrial index was down over 3.1%, and the top 10 was down 4.21%. And the mining index was the only one that added. Actually, a mining index was up last week just over 4%. Now then, Africa's largest online retailer, Jumia, which counts MTN as a major shareholder, on Wednesday admitted to fraudulent sales figures. Jumia owns clothing seller Zando in South Africa and operates in 14 African countries with some 4 million customers across the continent. It has uncovered instances of improper orders placed and subsequently cancelled to inflate sales in Nigeria, Bloomberg reported. MarketWatch reported that sales agents inflated the sales to earn additional commission. Some 4% of first quarter sales, or sales worth $17.5 million, roughly 265 million rand, are believed to have been inflated, Jumia said. Following the news of the fraudulent sales on Wednesday, Jumia's share price fell from $14.75 to $12.21. But by the end of the week in early trading, it recovered to around $13. Now, the Federal Reserve Bank's Powell was set to deliver a speech at a yearly central banking symposium in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Investors will look for clues about what the U.S. central bank would do next. Analysts say markets have fully priced in a possible rate cut in September. Now, as you know, the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points in July, citing global developments and muted inflation. Now, comments from other Fed officials about how certain a September rate cut has dampened investor confidence. Millions of in our top story, which is something that should worry all of you, millions of shiny new Android smartphones are being purchased with dangerous malware factory installed, according to Google's own security research team. There have been multiple headlines about the millions of harmful apps being installed from the Play Store, but this is something new. The danger is that some of the pre-installed malware can download other malware in the background, commit ad fraud, or even take over its host device. New phones can have as many as 400 apps factory installed, many of which we just ignore. But it transpires that many of those apps have not been vetted. The risk impacts Android's open source project, AOSP, a lower-cost alternative to the full-fat version. AOSP is installed on lower-cost smartphones where cheaper software alternatives help keep prices down. This means owners of Android-badged devices from the likes of Samsung and Google itself are safe from this particular risk. Now, the Google team didn't disclose any details of the brands of phones involved, but more than 200 device manufacturers fell foul to the testing, with malware allowing the devices to be attacked remotely. Of particular concern were two particular virulent malware campaigns, Chamois and Triada. Chamois generates various flavors of ad fraud, installs background apps, downloads plugins, and can even send premium rate text messages. Chamois alone was found to have been installed on 7.4 million devices. Now, Google is working to help device manufacturers screen for such vulnerabilities. Now, in the meantime, the usual advice applies around downloading and installing apps from the Play Store. But there is not much users can do if those threats come from pre-installed apps. So that's why this revelation is so dangerous. Now, the Pan-European Stock 600 climbed 0.5% early in the session on Friday. Technology stocks leading gains with a 1% rise as nearly all sectors and major bourses traded in the positive territory. Now, the Group of 7 G7 annual summit begins on Saturday in France, bringing together the leaders of Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States, and is expected to end without a joint communique for the first time in its 44-year history due to deepening rifts between the heads of state. Now, Brexit will also be high on the agenda after UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson met with German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron this week for talks. Now, in corporate news, Deutsche Bank has agreed to pay $16 million to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to settle charges that had violated the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The German lender's stock, however, traded 0.8% higher at the end of the session. Meanwhile, the Financial Times reported that the EU is considering plans for a €100 billion sovereign wealth fund to finance European industrial champions in order to compete with U.S. corporate giants such as Apple and Google. Now, major Asia-Pacific markets rose by the close on Friday as investors looked ahead to an important speech from U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell later in the day. In fact, this is currently where they are trading. Now, in Japan, the Nikkei rose on Friday. However, it's opened down about 2%, and the topics added 0.23% to 1502. South Korea's KOPSI also closed down. As you can see, the markets are down this morning as, of course, they open. Now, tensions between the two countries escalated. That's between Japan and South Korea. They escalated after Seoul said it was cancelling an intelligence-sharing pact with Tokyo amid a bitter trade dispute. The arrangement was designed to share information on the threat posed by North Korea and its missile and nuclear activities. Japan's Defense Minister Takeshi Iwaya said Friday South Korea's decision showed it fails to appreciate the growing security threat posed by Pyongyang's missile activities. Now, defense names in Japan and South Korea mostly rose steadily through the day to end higher by the close on Friday. In Japan, shares of Kawasaki Heavy Industries rose 0.69%, Fujitsu was up 1.25%, Mitsubishi Electric added 1.62%, and South Korean defense stocks pared early gains but were mostly positive. Speco was up 0.17%, Victech up 8.49% in early trade, and Hanwha Aerospace gained about 2%. Now let's have a quick look at African currencies. Now, if you're in Zimbabwe, are you tired of constant fuel and diesel price increases? Well, unfortunately, it hasn't stopped because effective today, Zimbabwe has once again increased the prices of petrol and diesel. New petrol prices in Harare alone are now $10.32 per litre and petrol $10.01. But listen to this. The most expensive prices are to be found in Hwange and Victoria Falls. In fact, in Victoria Falls, a litre of diesel is now $10.86 and petrol $10.56. It is yet to be seen what impact this price increase will have on the cost of basic commodities in shops. Because, of course, as soon as the petrol price goes up, well, obviously then retailers and wholesalers and manufacturers may automatically increase their prices. We're going to be keeping an eye on that to see the impact of the new fuel prices on goods and services, particularly basic commodities. Now then, innovation. There's no doubt that the most, or one of the most innovative companies in Zimbabwe, Cassava Smart Tech, and there's just no doubt about it. And if people had doubts, well, the latest innovations may put that to rest. Cassava FinTech International SASAI has invaded the remittance market, with the integrated social payments platform set to commence remittances from the United Kingdom and South Africa next month. SASAI's chief executive, Eddie Chibi, last week told the Mint that the remittance platform was set to be zero-rated in the first 30 days of operation. The game-changing service will bring relief to the transacting public, as it will see Zimbabweans sending money from diaspora paying 2.5% in remittance fees, a cost which usually runs between 8 to 15%, depending on the country the money is sent from. The service will be available through the SASAI application, recently launched by London-based CFI parent company to Cassava Smart Tech Zimbabwe. SASAI, which is available on Google Play Store and the Apple App Store, combines mobile payments, social media, and instant messaging, as well as entertainment, all on one app. And of course, EcoNet has also, as I said, entered the Bureau de Change market. EcoCash. If you go to your EcoCash application, you'll be able to transact through your wallet and be able to convert your US dollars or other proceeds into Zimbabwe dollars. Now, our Mint reporter in Dhaka, Majaka, caught up with Mr. Chibi, and this is what he had to say.
What we're looking at is the community of Zimbabweans which is out there in the diaspora, which are supporting families back home. And what we would want to do is to lower the cost of doing remittances when they're sending back money. When they're sending money, the average tariff which they're getting charged is between 8 and 15%. And what we would want to do is, using our assets with the integration to SASAI, we would want to make sure that effective the 1st of September, if you use Cassava Remit or SA Remit, which is EcoCash Remit, you're able to send money home for free, zero fees. The second phase of that, this is going to run for a period of about 30 days, and post that period we'll be levying a fee of 2.5%, which is still a huge reduction from the 8 to 15% which is currently being charged. Subsequent to that, we're also looking at talking to all the other remittance partners which we already are working with, so that at least they can lower their remittance fees which they levy to customers who would want to send money home. But all these fees are only reduced provided you are going through the SASAI app.
Now, you can imagine that. I mean, you know the expense if you're living in the diaspora about sending money to your relatives in Zimbabwe. So you can imagine now the SASAI app, 2.5% as compared to the 8 to 15% charged by normal other channels. And in fact, EcoNet there on SASAI as well as EcoCash have linked up with the traditional money transfer agents. So you should be able to receive all your currencies into your foreign currency wallets at EcoCash, and then be able to convert it on your phone from your house or from wherever you are. That's ease of doing business. And I take my hat off to Cassava Smart Tech and EcoCash. Innovation is what this market needs, and you cannot fault a company for being innovative and being ahead of its competitors. Now then, the US dollar last traded at 98.334 against a basket of its peers, jumping from an earlier session low of 98.181. Now, elsewhere, the Japanese yen traded at 106.64. It's opening this morning at 105.65 against the United States dollar, weakening fractionally from earlier levels of around 106.36. The Australian dollar changed hands at 0.6754. Now then, the offshore yuan dropped to a fresh low since 2008, trading at 7.0930 per dollar in the afternoon on Friday, while the offshore exchange rate was at 7.0902. The People's Bank of China set the yuan midpoint rate at 7.0572 per dollar, slightly stronger than was what a Reuters poll had estimated. The central bank allows the onshore yuan to trade in a narrow band of 2%, up or down from the daily midpoint fix. Investor sentiment remained cautious as the trade war between Beijing and Washington continues. On Thursday, China threatened countermeasures against new U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods, but did not provide details on how it will respond. The euro edged lower and the dollar strengthened broadly on Friday, again awaiting a keynote speech late on Friday by the head of the Federal Reserve, after some of his fellow policymakers signaled reluctance to cut U.S. interest rates further. The euro attempted to stage a relief rally the day before, following the stronger-than-expected Eurozone purchasing managers surveys for August, and the gains proved short-lived. Now let's have a quick look at commodities and, of course, metal and oil markets. Well, that's it for In the Market. Join us after the breather when we look at In the Economy. And today we're looking at the World Expo Fair that's going to be held in Bulawayo by the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. Don't go away. The Mint will be right back.
A great artist once stated, only shooting stars break the mold. But while the stars shoot at night, most of the artists sleep on their dreams. Instead of dreaming high and fighting harder, trust our dreams to stardom and let the stars gleam. Don't you think we might achieve the Zimbabwean dream? Well, fast forward, enough about the artists that trusted their dreams and let their passion pay off. Cause every day, another star was born. But will you be there to witness? Dreamstar Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's Best Talent Search competition is back. This 2019 on the 31st of August at HICC Rainbow Towers, Harare from 6 p.m. till late. Come and watch as the final 17 contestants battle for the grand prize of 30,000 RTGS. For tickets, call us on 0775 775 775. Voting lines will be announced on our official Facebook page, Dreamstar Zimbabwe. Dreamstar, dream higher and fight harder. Proudly sponsored by the following.
Welcome back to The Mint, of course, live every day on ZTN, every weekday at 10 a.m. And, of course, your comments, please keep them coming through on our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, our Twitter, ZTN News, and, of course, our website, ztn.co.zw. You'll find great programming there. Now, in our series looking at eccentric entrepreneurs, today we look at Thomas J. Watson. Now, he was quoted as saying, if you want to succeed, double your failure rate. Now, Thomas John Watson, an American entrepreneur and CEO of IBM, died in 1956. Watson took over IBM's business after his father passed and carried the company to the top of the tech world. He's a good example of how someone can be entrepreneurial inside an already existing company, a corporate entrepreneur, writes Mike Goldsby, professor of entrepreneurship. Did you know that Thomas J. Watson loved the Boy Scouts so much that he tailored himself one of their uniforms to sit around the campfire with the scout leaders and regular Boy Scouts? Now then, the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority, ZTA, said it is ready for the Sanganai Hlanganani World Tourism Expo. This is an annual tourism trade fair to be held next month. The authority's then acting chief executive, Vita Likukuma, said ZTA was presently hosting countrywide trainings for exhibitors to impart knowledge on exhibiting, marketing, and trading skills at travel or tourism shows. Likukuma said the country also expected a 5% increase in international tourist arrivals, as it is also working on growing domestic tourism. To unpack the report, Ndaka Majaka gives us more.
With over 100 international exhibitors expected, the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority says it is ready to host its Sanganai Hlanganani International Expo next month.
As the Tourism Authority put up the Sanganai Hlanganani World Travel Expo. So what happens there is all the big names that market and sell tourism destinations descend on Zimbabwe. So from the 12th to the 14th of September, there'll be a hive of activity in Bulawayo. And we are going to have over 100 international buyers who will be coming through.
Likukuma said her organization was working hard to ensure the tourism sector's contribution to national GDP increased this year. To ensure this, the ZTA has been training exhibitors around the country on how to market Zimbabwe as an attractive tourism destination.
Already, I think today we were actually training in Bulawayo 60 exhibitors. So the interest is very high. And following from that, we then expect them to start sending, tourists into this country.
The acting ZTA boss pointed out that the authority expected a 5% rise in international tourist arrivals this year, mainly driven by increasing Chinese tourists.
This year, 2019, we expect maybe a growth of about 5%. So maybe 2.7 million, thereabouts.
This comes as Lonely Planet, a global leader in the provision of travel information, ranked Zimbabwe in the top 3 most attractive tourism destinations in the world in its 2018 survey. Likukuma hopes Zimbabwe and her majestic offerings will one day be ranked best tourism destinations around the world. For The Mint, I'm Ndaka Majaka in Harare.
Sanganai Hlanganani showcases the wildest variety of Africa's best tourism products and attracts international visitors and media from across the world. The fair is a successor to the Shanghai Vakashani, the Zimbabwe International Trade Expo, ZITE, that was held annually at the Harare International Conference Center. ZITE started as a small expo in 1982 and grew over the years to become one of Africa's leading tourism showcases by 2007. The past 8 editions of Sanganai Hlanganani were a success and attracted the leading African destinations and major world tourism markets, such as South Africa, Botswana, Malaysia, China, Zambia, Malawi, Kenya, Mozambique, amongst many others. Now, the editions have seen the whole world converging in Zimbabwe in the form of high-caliber international buyers as well as exhibitors. The 2016 edition will be held in the country's 2019 edition, will be held in the second largest city, Bulawayo, and is expected to ride on the successes gained by the previous edition. So, if you are in town in September, make a date to go and see this expo. There's so much there. You'll be able to see not just our local tourism products, but there's also international exhibitors as well as international buyers. It's a date not to be missed, and we, of course, on The Mint will be reporting more on that World Tourism Expo show. A local banker has condemned exchange rate-based pricing currently obtaining in the economy, arguing rate fluctuations do not essentially translate to an upward shift of product prices. ZB Financial Holdings Chief Executive Ronald Mutandagai state sentiments follow a trend of steep pricing by local retailers on the pretext of hedging against rates upwards movement. Now, some price hikes have been instituted when the exchange rate goes up, but never revert back when the rate lowers, posing an unjustified increase of commodities. Mr. Mutandagai highlighted that the pricing was not reflective of production compositions and that exchange rate variations do not in effect translate to price hikes. He said, "We have lost the basis for pricing. Everyone seems to be looking at their price and say the exchange rate is at 10, so my price must go up." Mr. Mutandagai also added, "I implore our economic players to be responsible about it. Let's take a product that requires 30% of foreign currency content. Surely you should not increase your price because the exchange rate has moved." The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor Dr. John Manguchka is on record slamming businesses for wantonly rising prices of basic commodities based on the movement of the exchange rate, saying it was not a significant factor to determine the value of a product. Well, what do you think? Please your comments on our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, Twitter at ZTN News, and website ztn.co.zw. We would love to hear from you. Chinese investors have announced plans to construct an $8.2 million airport hotel in Kenya near the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The investors, who have already purchased a plot worth $5.3 million in Embakasi, 20 minutes drive away from the capital Nairobi, said they have received approval for change of use from industrial to commercial ahead of the planned 6th-floor luxury hotel. The hotel will be constructed on 5.2 acres of land and will host up to 25 standard hotel rooms. The environmental impact assessment report notes that the proposed development integrates and fits well into the neighborhoods in terms of traffic management, height, sustainability and quality, according to the laws. The development will sit next to the existing luxury hotels, including Hilton Garden Inn and Governor Lounge and Restaurant on Mombasa Road. An agency of the United States government has agreed to lend more than 600 million rand to build a gas plant in the Free State. The JSE-listed Renergen announced on Wednesday. Shortly after the signing of the deal, Business Insider reports. Now, the agency, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPIC, will lend Renergen 40 million over 12 years at a rate linked to a price of US dollar bonds, making for what the local company calls an efficient source of capital. The loan also has a built-in grace period of around 3 years before the principal debt will become due, which Renergen says will give it time to build and commission its Virginia gas project. Renergen plans to extract and refine liquefied natural gas, LNG, which has a wide range of applications but is commonly available, as well as the much more scarce helium. Now, helium is critical in fields such as high-tech manufacturing and for some types of rocket engines. And it's also used in MRI machines and many devices where supercooling is required. But its unique properties also make it nearly impossible to store for a long period. Containers can typically hold it for only around 45 days. Only a handful of countries, including the USA, currently produce helium. Of course, I cannot leave you without putting a smile on your face. It is a Monday anyway, and I know most of you feel down on a Monday, even though here on The Mint, it's our best day of the week. Now, popular social media site Pinterest now has 70 million users worldwide. At first, Pinterest community was so small that co-founder Ben Sieberman personally wrote to the first 7,000 people who joined the site to ask them what they thought about it. Today, he attributes Pinterest's usefulness to collecting so much input and feedback from the users. Well, there we go. I hope that put a smile on your face. But it does show you that these large companies, the companies that now are daily on your laptop or on your computer, how they started off and what their owners and starters had to do to get them up and running to be the success they are today. I think the moral of that story is never give up. Always make sure that you're on top of your product and that whoever buys into it, the one person that must be you. Anyway, that's it for The Mint today. Please, your comments, keep them coming on our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, Twitter @ZTN News, and our website, ztn.co.zw. As I always say, we would love to hear from you. And of course, don't miss our exciting lineup of shows. Heartbeat, a show all about health issues. The Couch, you now know that's the only sports show that I watch. The Chase, Zimbabwe's top current affairs program, and of course, up-to-the-minute news from our ZTN newsroom. And of course, you can watch this episode of The Mint and back episodes of The Mint on our Facebook page and Papers TV Network, and of course, ztn.co.zw. Well, that's it from me. I, of course, will see you tomorrow morning, as I do every weekday at 10 a.m. here live on Zim Papers TV Network. All I can say today is have a fantastic day, and you all be safe. Goodbye.